Welcome to another episode of Careers and Coffee. I am your host. My name is Kaylee, and we have the lovely Josie working really hard behind the scenes today for us doing tech. Today, we will be focusing on inclusivity and the importance of this and what that means. So we have a real treat for you because we have the amazing Priscilla on the show to speak more about this. Priscilla is a SENCO, and I'm going to have to look at my notes for this to make sure that I get it right. A licensed Thrive practitioner, and she is also trained as an advanced autism practitioner since being in this role. So let's welcome Priscilla.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Great, thank you. And thank you so much for being here with us today and chatting about you and your career and why inclusivity is so important. This is something that's so important to myself and Josie. So we're really excited to have you on the show as well. So thank you so much.
Anytime.
But to kick it off, so who are you and what do you do?
So I think first and foremost, I am a mum of 4 children, and although that's not my career, it has really shaped my career. And yeah, I kind of went into teaching before I became a mum. But having my children did really change the path I took in education. So at the moment, I'm working as a SENCO in a primary school. I'm also a licensed Thrive practitioner, so I look at emotional well-being, and I'm a designated teacher for looked after children. So I have a special curriculum as well. And yeah, it's a very varied role, and I still teach. With all of that, I still go into a classroom and teach.
That's incredible. That's a lot. I mean, your day job sounds so varied, and as well, thank you so much for obviously sharing that you're a mum as well. That's amazing. Thank you. And I think we're going to get more into your role as well. But to kind of start with, I know you also went to university and you studied film and television. So could you tell us about your university experience, and have you learned anything that you learned at university, and do you use that in your role now?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the most important thing about university is, firstly, it is loads of fun. Loved my time at university. So I did a joint BA honours degree. So I did film and television as well as drama and theatre studies. And the most important thing I learned from university was the transferable skills. It was managing my time, the breadth of reading that I had to do, meeting deadlines, that sort of thing. But in terms of subject, when I was working at secondary school, I taught drama. So my subject knowledge from university was obviously really important. But it's also from the film and television point of view, just seeing things through a lens, like focusing in on something or zooming out. And I find that in teaching, and especially with special educational needs, it's something that you need to do. So you kind of put that focus back on. So actually, I'll really zoom into this child, find out what their issues are, what their difficulties, their differences are, and zoom out and see what that child is like in the classroom as well. So yeah, it did really help.
That's amazing. And yeah, I agree. I think you learn so much at university that students may not necessarily know. They may think they go to university and they have to like stay within that career, what they studied in, but actually you learn so many different skills that kind of shape you as a person as well. So I want to speak about your role as a SENCO and also kind of what you do in the school, because as you said a moment ago, your role is so varied. And I think students may feel if they want to go into teaching that maybe it's just subject curriculum areas that they can do, but obviously you've kind of just already shown us that you can do so much more as well. But how did you transition from your role as a teacher into a SENCO, and were there any sort of main courses that you took to help you to do this?
Yeah, it was a real journey. So I started as a secondary school teacher teaching drama and performing arts, and I loved it, and I still love it, and I wouldn't say no to going back to doing that. What I really loved about that was the creativity, and building those relationships. I mean, I found that the creative arts was a subject where, you didn't have to thrive academically to thrive creatively. Well, and it was, you saw the best out of some children. And while at secondary school, I did teach some special educational needs as well, through a competency curriculum. That was just to make sure that they could survive in life. Go to the shops and not get conned out of change. Make sure that they were signing the right forms, that sort of thing. And really like that, and that kind of steered me in the direction of SEN before I even knew it really existed. So I made the transition to primary school because I wanted to help children to read and write and do basic number before it got to secondary level. And while I was there, I had quite a high needs class, and thought, I really want to get into it now. But there wasn't the opportunity. So while on maternity leave, I took just some online courses to find out a bit more about it, and then got offered a position in additional provision within a mainstream class. So I had a small class of about 8 children, all with additional needs, mainly autism. Some of them were going off to special school, so it's transitioning them to the next stage of their education. And while I was doing that, was when I did my SENCO accreditation. So since the Code of Practice in 2015, it became the law that to be a SENCO, you had to have a master's level qualification. So I did that alongside my Thrive Practitioner course. And then went on secondment for a year at another school to get a bit more experience. And then the SENCO position came up, and kind of went for that. And all these things happened in like bits of maternity leave. So it was quite a journey. Very busy, very exciting, and just learnt loads during it. So it was so there's lots to do, and that SENCO accreditation is really challenging, but you do learn a lot, and it all falls into place when you're in role.
Amazing. And let's speak a little bit more about your SENCO role. So what kind of things do you do sort of day to day within that role as well?
So my first job of the day is to open the school gates. And I know that sounds like that's the caretaker's job, but actually you are the first face those children and parents see in the morning. The building of relationships in this role is vital. You're their first port of call. You're the advocate for their children. So my first half an hour is spent welcoming children and talking to parents before they even get into school, making sure they have a lovely transition from home to school. And then, I do quite a variety of roles within the school day. So I do some work on safeguarding. Children with SEN are, some of the most vulnerable children. So I do some work there. And we have a vulnerable pupils meeting weekly to make sure that everything's okay, their attendance is up, that sort of thing. I do some observations of children and staff. So I help class teachers and LSAs with their quality first teaching and how they can make their lessons more inclusive if all their children's needs are being met, and the balance between that. I do some staff training as well. I do some assessing of children, whether that's maths or English or social emotional. And I also carry out interventions as well. So I do some social emotional interventions for children with difficulties in that respect as well. So it's a very busy day.
Yeah, it sounds very busy, but it also sounds amazing, and it kind of gives another light into kind of actually the careers that you can have within a school. Actually, we've just had a live question come through, and it kind of transitions nicely on. So how difficult did you find juggling study, work and home life big question, but a great question.
Huge. Always learning still how to juggle. And balance is really important. So I'm a real advocate of mindfulness. So I do practice mindfulness. I have a really good planner, and mindfully plan as well. I really make sure that I take the time to plan my week. Anything that I don't get done, I make sure it's highlighted and slotted in somewhere else. I try and make sure that I exercise and eat well, and also have something away from work that is a focus. So at the moment I'm training for like an ultra walk. It means that I do have to put in that time for me as well, and have your boundaries and stick to them, but not to be too harsh on yourself if you do break them. If you've got a big review coming up, or annual reviews or EHCPs coming through, sometimes you do have to pull a late night or work at the weekend, but you have to take that time back for yourself. So that's really, really important.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think sometimes we can get so caught up, can't we, in actually what we're meant to achieve, and kind of forget about we need to look after ourselves to be able to achieve that. So we do have another question come through. I'm gonna get you to answer that one in a moment, but we really want to focus on inclusivity as well. This is kind of the theme of our chat. So, and I know it can be a very broad term as well, but can you explain a little bit more about what inclusivity means?
So, like I say, it's really broad and really individual, because to be inclusive and to be authentically inclusive, you really need to get to know a person, and that's like so key. Because it can often be a bit of an add-on. Like, we look at equality, it's like, oh, actually, yeah, we're inclusive, we give them all of this stuff, but actually, then are you excluding others because you're trying to include somebody else? And it's really important to just remember how individual it is and how different it is for each person. There's a lovely picture where there's 3 people watching a baseball game, I think it is, and they're all different heights. Would you give them all 2 boxes? Like, actually, the tallest person, he doesn't need anything, but he might need some binoculars because he's short-sighted. And the shortest person might need 3 boxes, and the middle person who's broken his leg might need 2 boxes but some steps to get up. So it's all about how that individual can achieve their potential, and how we can help them do that, and help themselves know what they've got to do. Because at the end of the day, people need to be independent, and we need to do it with dignity. We don't want them being spoon-fed. We want people to have dignified lives and do it themselves.
That's amazing. And that's such a great visual example. So I'm dyslexic, so actually picturing a visual image in my head really helps me. And yeah, that was a great visual way to explain that. So thank you so much. So yeah, we've had the question come through. So how much do you discuss career pathways with your students and their parents? Was this covered in your SENCO course?
No, it wasn't covered in the SENCO course. But yes, we do discuss career pathways, and for us at primary school, the next stages of education. And that can be really challenging at times. A lot of people, parents, especially when children are younger, just think special school's the way forward. We've got a real shortage of special school places, and it's trying to find other ways of progression in education and career. At secondary school level, we looked really carefully at career progression. Where was the best place to go? What's the best type of course to do? Are you going for A levels, MVQs, BTECs? There's so much out there now with apprenticeships and vocational courses that there really is something for everyone. and it can be quite a challenging conversation, but I think having those conversations is so important, and just opening up that discussion. Like, knowledge is power, and I think, you know, when you've got options, it's easier to make a decision.
Perfect. You answered that perfectly. Thank you.
Mhm.
So why is, coming back to inclusivity, why is inclusivity important at school and in the workplace? I mean, we hear it a lot, and I think sometimes employers may just think it's a bit of a tick box exercise, but actually, why is it important?
It's so important. I mean, if your needs are met, you are going to be more productive. You're going to be much more valuable to that company that you're working for. There's been huge steps forward in terms of employment and inclusivity in employment. And it's probably easier. You know, they've got a better budget. You know, you've got your standing tables and your quiet spaces, and people can access those. But what's really important is getting that in education, so individuals know what's their best working environment, and you know, we're there to help them do that, to teach them, actually, if you do this, this calms you, or this helps you work more. If you have an overlay, the words don't jump off the page as much. And if they know that, then they can go into work saying, this is what I need to be the best, you know, employee you've got. So it's about really building those relationships, finding out the strengths of those individuals and what helps them with their learning and their productivity. And that's, you know, really, really key to them being great employees in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? You've just answered my next question, because I was going to ask, how do you feel employers or students who are maybe going into apprenticeship or, you know, a workplace, help to create an inclusive environment? But I think you've just kind of answered
Yeah,
that
get
question.
to know them, spend that time building that relationship, and you know, get to know the people that you're working with. So much will come out of that. And you know, especially in SEN, we, you know, thrive on those relationships. That's what, you know, helps us build some really good people.
Yeah. And if so, any of those watching, if they decide, well, actually, after listening to this, they might have been thinking about being a teacher or going into another career, but now they're mainly, you know, they could be quite inspired because you are an incredibly inspiring person. So they might think about going, oh, I want to go be a SENCO. What advice or tips would you give a young person who's maybe looking at this as a career?
Get experience in schools, in different settings. You know, work with individuals with special educational needs. They are so different and so individual. They always say that one autistic person is one autistic person. Obviously, you know, get your maths and English and science, because you need all three of those to be a teacher, and you need to be a teacher to be a SENCO. And yeah, just really work on relationships and finding out how to really get to know somebody, because that's kind of what the job's based on, those relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And we've just had another question come through. So, what do you think are the biggest barriers for young people with additional needs getting work placements?
I think it's the invisible need. It's a lot of the mental health issues around anxiety. So people with additional needs sometimes do suffer with anxiety because of that. It's getting to know yourself and having your difference as your superpower. You know, there's nothing wrong with having differences, and many of these differences have great strengths. So know yourself, be confident in yourself, and be able to talk about your needs. And I think that is the biggest barrier, because it's so personal. But I think that's the thing to get over. Talk about it with your employer. There'll be a
Absolutely.
way.
And I think as well, when we're speaking about employers as well, how, and I know we kind of touched on this, but how do you feel employers could maybe help support those with additional needs to be able to, you know, become more inclusive, come into their workplace? What do you feel like employers could be doing more of?
I think training is really important. So find out about these needs. You know, if you know someone comes into you, they're the first person with autism in the company, then you know you need to go and find out about autism. It's very different, it's very individual. You've got to have those catch-ups, you've got to talk to them, or whatever means of communication it might be, whether it's notes, emails, phone. Have those conversations and find out as much as you can about this. There's so many lovely companies out there that educate people on all these different needs, and it's really, really worth finding out and coming to them with empathy, you know, having a think about, you know, just putting yourself into their shoes for a bit.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely. And knowledge is power. The more
Absolutely.
the more you know, the more you can help support, can't you, with that? But
Mhm.
Priscilla, thank you so much. I've just realised the time, and although I could probably continue to ask you loads of questions and speak about this forever, yeah, we have come to the end. So I just want to say a huge thank you for coming on today. You've been absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been great.
So thank you again to Priscilla for coming on, and thank you for Josie for working very hard behind the scenes today. All I had to do is come on and host. Josie's been doing all the tech stuff, so thank you. And thank you to those watching, and we look forward to having you back with us after the week break of the half term. Thank you.